All right, so let's take a look at our results of the quiz. The the primary purpose for this quiz, oh, you guys can't see what I'm seeing. All right. The primary purpose of this quiz really was just to help you understand the concept that whatever we talk about in previous classes can and more than likely will carry over into future classes. Okay. Because I know sometimes you talk about a topic in class and it's like a one and done. You move on, you don't come back to it. In this class, we're going to build on a lot of different things. Okay. So we are doing addition, multiplication, division, and subtraction. Okay, good. I'm glad nobody said physics, but we are definitely not doing calculus in this class. All right. Let's see. The triangle tool, excellent. Okay. On the triangle tool, we got that right the first question. On the triangle tool, it's divided into sections. The top portion is the cost. Okay. That horizontal line. So think about when we have the triangle, and I would recommend that you actually draw it out. So that horizontal line, or the one that divides the top from the bottom, that basically looks like a division sign. Okay, to help you memorize that. All right. So letter A represents why does letter A represent cost percentage or menu price? Any thoughts?
Be either A or C.
It can be either or, right? It can be either A or C because D is what kind of math? It's multiplication, so it can go in any order. Okay. So it doesn't matter what you put in the bottom ones, whether you put percentage first or you put menu price first. Okay. It doesn't matter because they can go interchangeable. All right. Vertical line we just answered is that multiplication. Okay. The way I remember it, remember this line that's horizontal looks like a division sign. And then the opposite of division is multiplication. Okay. So we have the cost up at the top. Letter B represents cost. And on the second one, the formulas, what I would recommend as you're still getting used to this concept, okay, is go ahead and draw your triangle every single time, right? Draw it real, you can draw it small in the margin, cost, percent, sales. We look at this, I'm looking for the food cost percentage. I cover that up. And what's left over is my cost divided by the selling part. Okay. So maybe a few of you did the selling price divided by the cost. So if you actually draw out the visual, it will help you see that a little bit better. And then same thing with the bottom one. We draw that triangle again, cost, percent, sales. And if I'm looking for my food cost, I cover that up or scratch it out. And I've got the percent times the sales. Okay, or in this case, sales times percent. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I have a proposal for you all. As you can tell, my voice has not gotten any better. And I think one reason why today has been specifically or particularly rough is because I have a class that's 10:45 to 1:30. And so I was talking all day in that class and now coming into this class. So here's what my proposal is for y'all. I'm more than happy to put a live recording of either one of my Wednesday classes from yesterday for you guys to watch to fill out the notes pages if you want to. It goes into the specific math problems. Okay. Um, I do have, just so your time is not wasted. I do have a chapters 1 and 2 quiz that we can play if you guys want to do that, so we can at least kind of get some information. And then, because that doesn't require for me to do any talking, and then we can go over the quiz and we can just point out the ones that people had concerns with. Are you guys okay with that? I don't want you to feel like your trip to school was wasted. Okay, I want to be respectful of your time. So if you've not played Blue Kit, those of you who are online, you are welcome to join us as well. This is one of my favorite aspects of this particular program, is that you all at home, online on Zoom, can also play. So we're gonna play one of my favorite games. It's called Gold Quest. How many of you have never played Blue Kit before? Okay, cool. So I know I played it a couple times last semester. So Gold Quest. How many of you played Kahoot? Y'all familiar with Kahoot? Okay. So Kahoot is like a trivia type game. This is gonna be the same thing, but instead of all of us answering the same question up on the board, you're gonna be playing on your phone or on your computer. You're gonna be playing at your own pace. Okay. Um, and so we'll all have the same questions. It may filter out different orders. Okay. But your questions will repeat. So we're gonna play for about 7 minutes. Okay. And at the end of the 7 minutes, whoever has the most amount of gold wins.
Can I move up?
Of course you can. So you can either scan this QR code, or you can go to this website on your web browser and then put in this game code. Those of you who are online, you can do the same thing, so you can participate. In this game, you'll have the opportunity to answer a question correctly. You'll have an opportunity to open a treasure chest, and the treasure chest will either have treasure in it, or you can take gold from somebody else in the class. You can steal their gold, or you can even swap their gold. So if someone's like in first place and you have like 5 gold coins and they have 2,000, well, you can just steal it from them. Okay, just be careful, they may steal it back. So we're gonna play for 7 minutes. If you get an answer incorrect, okay, it will give you the correct answer. The correct answer will flash on the screen. So that way, the next time you see that question come up, you'll know that answer and you can answer correctly. Okay. The best thing to do is just to go ahead and tap your screen. It'll advance it to the next screen, so you don't sit on one screen for too long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 18 plus our 2 online, we should be right at 20. 19. Perfect. If you want, you can change your little Blue Kit character while we wait. There's somebody else, a different character you want from the gallery. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the recording for Canvas or for Zoom. But when we go over the results, if someone will please remind me to start recording again. Okay. So question 1, the primary goal of our food and beverage operation is to do what?
Primary goal, maximize.
Want to maximize our profits by doing what?
Reducing expenses.
Reducing our waste. Okay, good. Which of the following, do I have an option to show? There we go. Oops, I don't want to show the ones, business. All right. Question 2, which of the following is considered a variable cost? Which one was it?
It was menu ingredient,
The menu ingredients, right? What is a variable cost?
something that changes.
The costs like can change.
It changes, right? So the more food I'm selling, of course, the more ingredients I have to buy. Okay. What's the opposite of variable costs?
Static costs.
Fixed or static. Okay. So fixed cost does not change. What's an example of fixed cost? What's that? The rent, yeah, absolutely. Or the salary that we pay our managers, that's fixed. It doesn't matter if we get one person come in the door, or if we have 100. We have to pay the same amount. Yes, I am. Yes, thank you so much for reminding me. All right. So then the formula for calculating food costs, we kind of know that already. The food cost percentage is what? Cost over the sales, right? Do y'all remember what was the universal formula for percentage? The general universal formula for percentage we talked about last week. Part over
Whole.
the whole, right? So if we're looking for food cost percentage, I think the reason why some of y'all got many of y'all got this wrong is because the way the answers were written. So I'm just gonna chalk it up to that, okay? But if you think about the percentage, the part is how much it cost us to make it, and the whole is how much we sell it for. And that tells you what your food cost percentage is. So I am gonna pull up my PowerPoint and talk about the income statement. I think that's really important, but I will do that before we finish. Why is it important for us to control labor in our food service operations? What do you think?
Labor is one of the highest costs of an operation.
It is labor. It costs us a lot of money. We'll talk about that, I think, in chapter 9, I think is when we talk about labor. And so labor is not just, okay, I pay my employees $15 an hour and they work 40 hours. Labor also includes any kind of taxes that I have to pay, any kind of insurances that I have to pay as a business owner. So it's a lot of money that goes into labor. So that's why it's really important. If your boss is like, hurry up and clock out. Anybody ever experienced that before? Hurry up and clock out. It's because they have a limited amount of money for labor for their budget. And if you clock out 15 minutes later, then that eats into that budget. So budgeting, most of y'all got that correct. Excellent. We're basically predicting the future based on past experiences. Okay. What kind of information are we looking at when we look at the past?
The biggest expenses.
Okay, so we might be looking at the biggest expenses. Okay. We also might look at the volume of sales that we're going to do. So one example that I give, we look at the date. So coming up in February is what holiday? Valentine's Day. If Valentine's Day happens on a Friday or a Saturday, our volume of business is typically different than if it happens on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, right? That goes for hotels as well. Our occupancy might be higher during the weekend times, but if it's on a Monday or Tuesday, people may not come and do a staycation, okay, or a holiday. So we want to look at the day and the times, the season that are happening, or even special events. What happened in 2025 in San Antonio? It was a big event, massive event. Pitbull was here for it. What's that? March Madness, yes, the NCAA men's Final Four. So can I look at April of 2026? Can I compare that to April of 2025? No, because I don't have a Final Four anymore. And so we might have to go back to April of 2024 to figure out what our numbers are supposed to be for 2026 when we're budgeting, we're planning for the future. Okay. Prime cost is our food and beverage and labor. Okay, those three things, food and beverage kind of usually get lumped together. And then the labor gets lumped in there for our prime cost because those are our two, food and beverage and labor are our two most controllable costs. Those are the ones we have the most control over. If we're really slow and we have 9 servers on the floor, what are we going to do? Do we just keep them all there just because they were on the schedule? No. If it's really slow, where we're slower than we thought we were going to be, okay, you 4 people, I got to send you home because these 5 people can handle the floor. Same thing in the kitchen. So if you, as an employee, can cross train, and let's say maybe you can do grill, saute, and fry, and some of your coworkers can only do grill, when it comes down to cut down the kitchen staff, who's going to get to stay on? the person who can work multiple stations. And so you get more hours, okay? So that prime cost is food and beverage and labor lumped in together because we have the most control over them. So that's the last of them. When we're looking at the operational efficiency, we're looking at that food cost percentage. Okay. And then the key purpose of the financial analysis of an operating statement. Purpose. What is the key purpose? Oh, the key purpose was for what? To find those areas that we spend a lot of money on. Okay. So if you'll indulge me for just a couple more minutes. I go to my office. Hold on one second. All right. All right. There's two concepts that I really want to go over just to make sure we do it in person. And then I'll let you guys head out and not make you suffer having to listen to my voice. All right. So when we budget, when we forecast, we typically are going to increase or decrease, and we typically use percentages. Okay. So when we increase or decrease by a percentage, it's a two-step process. And you'll notice the first step is the same. Okay, the first step is the same for both processes. The only difference is what we do with that new number. If we're increasing, we're going to add that number to our original numbers to show how much we grew or we're going to grow. If we're decreasing, we're going to subtract that new number so we can get our new budgeted number. Okay, so let's do this first example up here at the top. We want to have a 3% increase from 2000. So the first step is to multiply 2000 times that 3%. And what do we get when we multiply by 3%? 2000 times 3%. Oops, let me get to a pen. What do we got? 60. Thank you so much. And so that's the first step, right? The second step is then to add it to the original number of 2000. And so a 3% increase on 2000 is 2060. So that's my new budget number. You guys see how that works? Okay. On the video that I'm going to post, it's my full live recorded lecture. We go over this other example as well. Okay. Now let's go about decreasing. Let's talk about decreasing. Okay, so if we're going to decrease by 5% on this first example, we have to multiply the original number times the percentage. So what is 15,000 times 0.05? See how that's a decimal of 5%?
750.
Okay, 750, thank you. All right, so now because our second step is to subtract, that means if I am budgeting I want to decrease my cost by 5%. So if my cost this year was $15,000 and I want to decrease by 5%, my new budget is 14,250. That's how we more easily increase or decrease when we're talking about budgets is by using that percentage. Okay. Then we have our income statements. This is also known as a profit and loss statement, a P&L for short. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about a P&L statement. This P&L statement is basically a snapshot, right? We have food costs. Food costs could be our meat, our vegetables, our produce. It could be our breads. It could be so many things, right? Our beverage costs could be sodas. It could be wine. It can be beer. It can be liquor. There's so many different things that can be different accounts that are under each one of these, but we just lump them all together in these general accounts to get this P&L. So it's basically a snapshot, okay? How many of you have ever heard somebody talk about like a manager or somebody is always just focused on the bottom line? Have you ever heard that phrase, focus on the bottom line when it comes to business or finances? And what they're talking about is this bottom line. They're focused on the bottom line of your P&L statement. And if this number is positive, that means we have a profit. If it's negative, that means it's a loss. Okay. Sales is always at the top because that's what we have to subtract everything else from. So sales is always at the top. Sales is equal to 100%. Okay. So sales equals 100%. All of these together also equals 100%. Okay, these are two different sides of the equation. Remember, profit. What's our formula for profit? Profit is equal to sales minus what? Cost. I heard it. So profit is equal to sales minus the cost. Well, what if we want sales all by itself? We're going to do some algebra. Okay, we're going to do some algebra. If we want sales all by itself, what do we have to do?
Cost.
We have to add cost here, right? The opposite. And then we have to add it on both sides. So if we were to rewrite this formula, sales is equal to costs plus profit. And that's what we have over here. Our costs and our profit also has to equals the sales number. So that's why I say this is 100% and this is also 100%. Okay. Did I lose anybody? I know that was a lot of jargon. And we did algebra. Sorry. All right. So the reason why I wanted to go into this was because there's one question on your final exam that we're going to take in 14 weeks. Okay. That basically says, what is my labor budget? How much money do I have for a labor budget if my sales are 30 or $3 million? Okay. Well, there's no number here. How do we find that number? If all of this is equal to 100%, right? What is 25 and 15? 40 plus 21, 61 plus 11,
72.
72. So if we do minus 72, that gives me 28%. So if my labor is 28%, now what tool can I use? What tool can I use to figure out a dollar amount for my labor costs? Say it loud and proud.
3,000,000.
I have sales, right? And I have a percentage. I'm missing cost. So what tool am I going to use? The triangle tool, right? I know that we have talked about the triangle from the context of food costs, okay? But the triangle will apply to any costs. We're just going to be looking at labor cost instead of food, okay? And so cost, percent, sales. If I'm looking for cost, I cover it up, and I have my sales of 3 million times the 0.28. And that is going to equal, I believe, $840,000. That is how we get our labor costs of $840,000. Okay? These two examples are just simply using the triangle, right? We have sales, cost, and cost percentage. I want to go over this last one because this combines your budgeting and your triangle tool. There is a question like this on the chapter 2 quiz. So I want to make sure I work this one out completely for you. And then you can go back and reference this video if you need to for the homework. Okay. So this is a 2-step process. First step, we need to find our budgeted amount, our new budget. Oops. The second step, we use the triangle. Okay. So our first step, last period, this is our historical data. Last period, let me choose a different color. We had $43,250 in food costs. That was our last year's period, or last period, okay? We want to increase our cost by 2.5%. So we multiply by 0.025. And what do we get when we multiply $43,250 times 0.025?
10,812.
10,812.5. Do we all agree? Anybody have something different?
Oh, yeah, I put something wrong.
Okay.
I got 1,081.25.
I
Yeah,
missed the decimal.
you probably missed that zero. So it's 1,080, what?
81.25.
81.25. Okay. So now we add that to our original number of 43,250. Okay. When we add that together, we get 1. 8 and 5 is 13. Carry the 1. 3, 4, and 4. And let's bring down our 25 cents. So my new food cost. My new food cost is $44,331.25. Do you all see how I got that? By increasing my old food cost by 0.25% or 2.5%. Okay. Now, let's do orange. Second step is to use the triangle. So if my triangle says cost, percent, sales, what am I looking for?
Sales.
Good, I'm looking for sales, so I cover that up. And so I have my cost of $44,331.25. And I divide that by my 30% food cost. Remember that 0 is there. You can type it if you want to. So what is my new sales goal? What is my goal for sales to maintain a 30% food cost with my new budgeted food cost?
0.3? No, not,
Yeah, it is 0.3.
all right.
Yeah, because like remember, let's see, take the 30 and move that decimal place over to.
I got 147,770.83 infinite.
Okay,
Yeah.
that looks about right. So at the end of this period, if I have spent $44,331.25 in order to maintain that 30% food cost, I need to go to my sales, to my cash registers, and all my deposits for that period, and it should equal at least $147,000. Okay, so that's how we figure out what our new projected sales number is based on budgeting by increasing and then using the triangle. Okay, questions, comments, concerns? I am going to do my best to not talk at all this weekend. It's going to be hard. Anybody going to the cowboy breakfast in the morning? Nice. We're supposed to be there at 2 o'clock. I've only ever been in the 10 years I've been teaching. I've only been once at 2 o'clock. I try to make it at least by 4 o'clock. So I'll see you in the morning if you're helping out the cowboy breakfast. We go out and make, I don't know, like 30,000 breakfast tacos. So it's a lot of fun. I'll post this recording. I will also post my recording from yesterday that has the full lecture. Thank you all so much. If you want a prize, come get your prize.
Sir, I have a question.